Good morning, everybody.
Good
All
morning.
right, so each week this month we have focused on Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore's classic book, Prosperity, which is right down here, which examines abundant living as a way of life. And we have explored the deep and timely ideas contained in this rich, pun intended, book. So, has this month been helpful?
Yes.
Yeah? Supportive?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me anybody can tell me one way that it has? Want to share a way that it's been helpful?
I just kept getting monies from sources that I didn't expect.
Ooh, unexpected income, always good, always
I'm gonna
good.
organize my abundance.
Organizing abundance, okay, that's great.
I'm staying in my budget.
Ooh, awesome, great examples, I love that.
I'm getting more abundant. I got a lot of new things this month. I got a great new light in the fixture in the bathroom. I got a new bed, mattress, box spring.
Oh,
New bedding. All of it was given.
Just
all
came to
brand
you.
new, all given.
oh
And
my
I'm
gosh,
like, wow,
Thank you,
this is
God.
That's a month of new beginnings for me.
it is, awesome, wonderful. Well, before we move into our topic for this morning, which is Let God Pay Your Debt, which is really a pretty intriguing title, isn't it? I want to share with you some interesting information about the 4 phases of gaining spiritual knowledge. This fits right in with what Casey was sharing a little bit. The first is what we will call the inspired phase. Just to keep us on track, here we go. The inspired phase. All right. That's what happens when we hear a new truth or principle that rings true. It's called that aha moment. It's the instant when the light bulb goes on because an idea hits that you hadn't heard before. It can feel really mind-blowing, can it? When you hear that idea the first time, you go, oh my gosh, that sounds so true. And you vow that you won't ever forget it, and you will live from it from this moment on. And sometimes that happens. But often when you leave church or the seminar or the lecture, or you close that book, a couple days later you think, now what was that great idea? Why didn't I write it down? I know I highlighted it in here somewhere. Didn't I put a little sticky on it? And it's just like, yeah. Well, I can't seem to remember it, but I'm sure it was really cool. I'm going to have to watch that video recording or listen to that podcast or read my notes or find it in the book so that I can remember. And I'll do that. I'll do that as soon as I have a little extra time, not right now. Anybody know that? Does that happen to anybody else? Okay, so the second phase is familiarity. Okay, you hear a truth that you've heard before and you think, oh yes, that's it. I remember that. I heard so-and-so say that, and that, yes, I remember that. It's not particularly exciting, but if it fits where you are in your life at that time, or if it applies to an issue that you're facing at that moment, you think, whew, I'm really glad I heard that right now. Perfect timing, that's great. I need to remember it this time. And maybe you do, and maybe you don't. So the third phase is the bored phase. Okay? It's when you've heard it all before and you feel like there's nothing more to learn. And so you tune it out. You know the words, been there, done that. We know people who say that often too. And you want to go on to something different, new, and exciting. And you'll see this. You'll see a lot of times it's, you get drawn into something. It's like, oh, okay, I'll do this, or I'll try this, and kind of jump around a little bit. You want to try something new and different. But here's the deal with the bored phase. It could be more accurately labeled deep familiarity, but it's not true spiritual knowledge. Yet it's the phase at which many of us bail or check out. And then we are left wondering why this stuff doesn't work for us. We know it on the surface, but we aren't really living from it. And so it's like, oh man, it used to work when I first started, but it's not working now, and we move on to something different. We only reach the spiritual knowledge phase when we know the principle or truth before someone brings it up and reminds us. Or more importantly, when we live from it without being prompted, and when we hear it again, our heart just really sings and a smile comes onto our face, and we immediately remember a way that we recently lived that idea, because it's become part of our everyday life. We aren't bored at all by hearing it again. Rather, it confirms that we are on the right path, the kind that takes us full circle to the definition of abundance consciousness that we stated the first Sunday. of the month and has been our affirmation for the entire month. And if you didn't get that affirmation card, there are some left, I believe, in the foyer. And it is thinking from, feeling from, believing from, speaking from, acting from, and reacting from a place that says from substance. I was created. In substance, I live and move and have my being. By substance, I am fed and prospered. This spiritual substance is steadfast and immovable, enduring, ever the same, constant, abundant, freely circulating, and available. And now that is what we call spiritual knowledge. So, for you, some of the ideas we will explore today may be in phase 1, pow, a new and amazing idea. Or phase 2, I've heard this before, but boy, it really fits in with where I am right now, so I'm glad I'm hearing it again. Phase 3, hoo-hum, bored, been there, done that. I can take a little cat nap right now. Don't do that. And if you really want to go there, I invite you to particularly pay attention because you are standing on the brink of really knowing the principle versus knowing about it. It's about being, coming from a place of being. That's what spiritual knowledge is. Knowing it in your life versus knowing about it. And when you know it, you think from it, you feel from it, you believe from it, you speak from it, and you act from it, and you react from it without needing to be reminded of it by an outside stimulus. My prayer is that something you hear today becomes spiritual knowledge, true spiritual knowledge. So let's figure out how to let God pay our debts. I want to focus on 3 passages from Charles Fillmore's book, Prosperity, that support us in this idea of letting God pay our debts. The first one comes from page 123. And he says, or writes, "The statement, 'I owe no man anything but love,' does not mean that we can disclaim owing our creditors money or try to evade the payment of obligations we have incurred. Rather, the thing denied is the burdensome thought of debt or of lack. Fill your mind with thoughts of divine love, justice, peace, and forgiveness. This will pay your debts of love, which are the only debts you really owe. Then see how quickly and easily and naturally all your outer debts will be paid and all inharmonies of mind, body, and affairs smoothed out at the same time. Nothing will so quickly enrich your mind and free it from every thought of lack as the realization of divine love. Divine love will quickly and perfectly free you from the burden of debt. Love will bring your own to you, adjust all misunderstandings, and make your life and affairs healthy, happy, harmonious, and free as they should be." So I want to share it with you again, and as I do, ask yourself where you are with the spiritual truths contained in it. So we have, come on. Why is it not wanting to move? Okay, here we go. Okay, phase 1. Wow, Zowie, what a new concept. Phase 2, I forgot that, but I can apply it today. Phase 3, ho hum, heard it before, nothing new here for me. And phase 4, yes, I know that it is true because I've lived it in my life. So here it is again, the statement, "I owe no man anything but love," does not mean that we can disclaim owing our creditors money or try to evade the payment of obligations we have incurred. Rather, the thing denied is the burdensome thought of debt or of lack. Fill your mind with thoughts of divine love, justice, peace, and forgiveness. This will pay your debts of love, which are the only debts you really owe. Then see how quickly and easily and naturally all your outer debts will be paid and all inharmonies of mind, body, and affairs smoothed out at the same time. Nothing will so quickly enrich your mind and free it from every thought of lack as the realization of divine love. Divine love will quickly and perfectly free you from the burden of debt. Love will bring your own to you, adjust all misunderstandings, and make your life and affairs healthy, happy, harmonious, and free as they should be. So the most powerful idea in that whole thing for me is fill your mind with thoughts of divine love, justice, peace, and forgiveness. Then see how quickly and easily and naturally all your outer debts will be paid. a lot of our teachings are about the mind. The quote says, fill your mind. But when we talk about filling our minds with thoughts of divine love, justice, peace, and forgiveness, we are really talking about a heart activity, aren't we? Isn't that much more, does that feel much more in sync with the heart? Anybody here familiar with the work of Greg Braden? Anybody read anything of Greg Braden? Okay. He teaches a heart-brain coherence meditation from HeartMath. Anybody heard of HeartMath? Okay. That is based on the fact that there are 40,000 brain cells, sensory neurites, located in the heart. It's located in the heart. And then, have you ever heard someone say, my heart hurts when I hear this? Isn't that interesting? It's that part of the heart brain that is picking that up. And this meditation connects the sensory neurites of the heart brain with those of the head brains, the heart mind connection. It gives us access to divine wisdom, intuition, physical healing. So are you up for doing a meditation, the heart right now? Okay, let's do that. It's very short. So start with getting very comfortable. Just get settled in your chair and close your eyes if you choose. Focus on the heart. Touch the space, the heart space, if that feels right to you. And slow your breathing down. 5 counts in and 5 counts out. It gives your body the message that it's safe. Breathe from the heart. Feel to the best of your ability care, appreciation, gratitude, or compassion. 5 breaths in, 5 counts in, and 5 counts out. And return when you are ready. That's all there is to that. Just right there, you've connected your heart with your mind. So what does this have to do with getting out of debt? I'm glad you asked. I leave that question for you to contemplate the answer for yourself. But I think it has created a space in us that Fillmore refers to on page 124. That is our second passage out of prosperity. The way is now open for you to pay your debts. Surrender them to God along with all your doubts and fears. God's power, love, and wisdom are here, for God's kingdom is where? Within you. Give God full dominion in your life and affairs. Give God your business, your family affairs, your finances, and let God pay your debts, which is happening even now. For it is God's righteous desire to free you from every burden. Meet every insidious thought, such as, I can't, I don't know how, I can't see the way, with the declaration, Jehovah is my shepherd, I shall not want. The funds to pay all your bills may not suddenly appear in a lump sum, but as you watch and work and pray, holding yourself in the consciousness of God's leadership and abundance, you will notice your funds beginning to grow here a little, there a little, and increasing more and more rapidly as your faith increases and your anxious thoughts are stilled. For with the increase will come added good judgment and wisdom in the management of your affairs. Debt is soon vanquished when wisdom and good judgment are in control. I want to share with you an example of how God paid a debt, which seemed like a very, very big debt. And this is a true story. I had some of my own, actually one I was going to share with my daughter, which is kind of similar. But this one was just too good. This was such a big impact from a colleague of mine. So this started in December of 2012, and this was Reverend Michelle, and her husband, Lonnie, needed extensive heart surgery. And after an 8-hour open heart surgery, he was in the cardiac ICU for almost 2 weeks. And a month or so after the surgery, his heart was in a flutter, I guess AFib or something like that. And they went back to the same hospital for him to be briefly put under and have it shocked back into rhythm. And as they were checking in, the women told them that they needed to pay for this procedure because they still had a sizable, with a great deal of emphasis on the word sizable, balance due with the hospital. And they didn't know this because they hadn't yet received a bill. So she turned her computer screen to show them, and the cost that the hospital was showing that they owed was $490,000. They both right about had a heart attack, seeing that right then and there, as she proceeded to calculate the insurance discounts and anticipated insurance payments. And she told them that that would be calculate, just $170,000. Well, I have to tell you, Reverend Michelle's, her mind quickly went to the $30,000 or so in bills that they'd already received, that had already come in from the doctors and such, that they were anticipating. And she did the math and knew that they were looking at about $200,000 in medical bills. And that shocked Lonnie's heart right back into rhythm, and he didn't need that procedure that day. That's not really. He still needed to have the procedure. So they wound up making a $100 payment, a little down payment on it, on the procedure, and they let them proceed. Well, Reverend Michelle shared that she knew there needed to be a lot of surrender here because of the insidious words that Fillmore says that we should banish from our minds that were definitely playing in her mind at that time. I can't. I don't know how. I can't see a way. All of those were very present. And since they could not figure out any of this at that point, the only thing they knew to do was to surrender the debt to God, along with their doubts and fears. They had to, as Fillmore said, give God full dominion in your life and affairs. Give God your business, your family affairs, your finances, and let God pay your debts. So, let's take a deep breath. Let me ask where you are right now. Do you have a debt that you have been worried about, concerned over, not sure how you would pay? Worried just maybe a little bit about the upcoming holiday season with budgeting and that kind of thing. Is it time to give it over to God? Reverend Michelle continued her story by telling us that she worked diligently with her practitioner. Always a good idea. Anytime you cannot see a way out, you call me. I'm a practitioner, and we will have more practitioners here to call. But I'm available if you ever need personal work, because that's what I do. It's good to know. I have a practitioner, a prayer partner. When I can't see, I call, and they know the truth for me until I can know it again for myself. Such a great thing to have. So she worked with her practitioner, who told her very clearly, and this is the kind of thing that a practitioner will tell you, either you believe in lack or you believe in abundance. Which is it? Which is it? It cannot be both. It was rubber meets the road for her. It was an in-your-face moment, and it was just what she needed to hear. You either believe in this truth, in this teaching, and what we teach, or you don't. Which is it? It's gotta say, okay, if you believe this, if it works, then prove me. Just as Edwin Gaines says, prove it to me now. So, are you at such a moment right now? Anybody at that kind of a moment? If you are, it's time to say, okay, what is it you believe? See your consciousness laid out before you and a fence running right down the middle. Are you trying to walk on top of it? Are you believing it sometimes and not others? Remember the scene in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy is walking on the fence, and she's balancing and yeah, and the pigs, and she falls in the muck, right, in the mire. You can't really walk that fence. You will fall in to one side or the other. So which side are you going to fall into? Lack or abundance? If you're in the midst of trying to figure things out, then you are toppling over into the side of lack, because you, like me, are not giving the universe room to work miracles. And miracles, the universe does work. At least they seem like miracles to us. But as we live from this, we begin to realize that they are not miracles. They are ordinaries. And they just appear, and they come quicker and quicker. It's wonderful. So you're wondering right now, well, what happened to Reverend Michelle? What happened to her and her husband? Well, she continued to work with her practitioner, truly living on the side of abundance, giving any worry, doubt, and burden over to God over and over and over again. And then the hospital bill arrived. And guess what? It wasn't for $170,000. It was only $43,000. She never thought that she would be so utterly delighted to get a bill for only $43,000. 2 months earlier, she would have fainted dead away at $43,000. In perspective, amazing, right? And now she's jumping for joy. So she has an insurance broker friend who worked with her to make sure that all the doctor bills were correct and accurate, which is a really wise thing to do, because that was the other story I was going to share. Both times my daughter had her baby at the same hospital, she received a bill that had charges on there, itemized, that she never had. She never had an IV. She never had the drugs. So they just automatically charged her for them. So always check your hospital bills. Called up, didn't have that. They took it all off. It was pretty amazing. She's doing it again with her baby's almost 3 months old, and they're charging her for things. Her bill this time is 3 times what it was for the first one, and she was there one less night. So you're thinking, no. It's a good idea to stay on top of this. So she had this insurance broker working with her, and she authorized this friend of hers to call the hospital on her behalf and, go over the bill. Because the bill that they received was not an itemized statement. It just said that they owed $43,000. And I wonder how many people just pay that or make arrangements to pay it without knowing what they're paying. She wanted to know what made up that figure. And so as the hospital rep was checking on the bill, she said to the friend, "It's interesting that you say you have a bill for $43,000 because we're showing here that they owe $26,000. Well, immediately, boy, it just dropped just from that one phone call. So it's getting better, right? But wait, there's more. Then the hospital rep says, "Hold on a minute, let me check something else." And when she came back on the line, she says, "I see that we've received a check here from the insurance company for $26,000. So the account is paid in full."
Oh my God.
Just like that, right? They don't owe anything. So, oh my, yes. God definitely paid that debt. And I believe that God will pay all of our debts, everyone's. We just have to be diligent, pay attention, and ask the right questions. And perhaps it will not happen for us in that way, but in ways that are just as beautiful and just as miraculous if we let abundance become a way of life for each and every one of us, right? So the final passage I want to share from Prosperity, it comes from page 69, and it will be the way that we end our time together because it's a rewrite of the 23rd Psalm. Fillmore calls it a prosperity treatment. So let's make this our closing prayer. The Lord is my banker, my credit is good. He maketh me lie down in the consciousness of omnipresent abundance. He giveth me the key to his strong box. He restoreth my faith in his riches. He guideth me in the paths of prosperity for his name's sake. Yea, though I may walk in the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy silver and thy gold, they secure me. Thou preparest a way for me in the presence of the collector. Thou fillest my wallet with plenty. My measure runneth over. Surely goodness and plenty will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall do business in the name of the Lord forever. And so it is, and so we let it be. And remember, this book was written in the midst of the Depression. So what a blessing it was to those who were able to read this at that time. So it is.
So it's